Hi everyone. I am so excited to be here today with Mistrix Sunmi, and we will be talking today about femdaddies, daddy doms, some of the differences between mommy and daddy dynamics, and collaboratively training a special little one. I am Mistress Danielle Blunt. I am a professional dominatrix based out of New York City. And yeah, I would love if you could introduce yourself as well.
Hello everyone, Mistrix Sunmi. I'm a DC-based pro dom, and yeah, I've been in the industry for about 5 years. I specialize in single tail whipping, bondage, slut training, and I'm super happy to be on the podcast.
Amazing.
Or
Actually,
on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, who knows what will happen with this?
Yeah.
A single tail is my favorite implement, and I feel like I don't know a ton of pro doms who love playing with single tails. I feel like I'm seeing more of it. Do you have a favorite implement?
Yes, I have an Axel signal whip, and it's 4 foot 16 plat, red black leather. And it's actually in Axel's possession right now because he's replacing my cracker on it because it's so I use it all the time, and yeah, it's my baby. It's like an extension of my body. It's
Yeah,
my favorite implement.
I feel like the single tail is the one implement that really feels like an extension of my body, like that it feels like the same as doing impact with my hands. I was on a waiting list for a Joe Wheeler whip for it was like 5 to 7 years or something like that, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna get this whip. And finally he sent me a message, and I have the whip in my possession now. And it's the whip that I grew up I came into kink throwing Joe Wheeler's whips at the space that I trained in, and one of my biggest regrets of leaving the place is I didn't grab one on my way out, and I've always wanted one, and I finally have one, and it just feels like home to me, and I just love that feeling with an implement.
And that's so special that now that it's yours and only yours, you can break it in, and it will break in exactly to your style of whipping and your hand position, and it'll mold itself to your style, which is just a really special thing about having your own whip.
I know. I love talking to whip enthusiasts. I was so excited because he's so great. I love him so much. He called me and spoke to me for an hour and a half about what I wanted my whip to be like, and I'm like, let me tell you about my shoulder problem. Let me tell you about how I want it to crack, how I want it to fall, the space that I'm playing in. And he's just he loves it so much, and I love that it's made by someone with that kind of intention. And he was like, don't let anyone else touch this whip, and I'm like, yes, this is a magical object that no one else should touch. They can only be on the receiving end.
Absolutely.
So it's so fun. I'm excited to hear you say that. I would love to, if you could talk a little bit about your journey into kink. How did you figure out that you were kinky, that this was something that you might want to explore professionally?
So kink was always something that I was interested in, and then it didn't, basically, when I came into BDSM, I was living with a bunch of punks, and my friends were hosting a play party, so my first entry to BDSM was really going to this queer punk DIY play party in punk basement, and I went into the play party being wow, I don't know, I had no idea. I was I don't know if I'm gonna be a top, a bottom, dominant, submissive. I just came in really blind, but excited to try everything. I came into BDSM being very open, which I'm very grateful for now. And I went to that play party and I just took it all in, and I was trying all different things, and it was a really, really special moment for me. And I just knew that there was something really special there, and I had 2 experiences at that play party that were pretty just great seeds of information for me, and just kind of realized that dominance or being a top is something that I would be well suited for. And just through like play partners and entering the queer scene, like as soon as I found out about leather dykes, that history touched really deeply to me. And as soon as I realized like, oh, there's a community of people like me who have been doing this for generations, and once I learned about the culture and the history, like I just found home in that. And so when I entered BDSM, it was very much through that lens. And then when I became a pro, I've been in the adult entertainment industry for 5 years, and I was in a really low point in my work as a sex worker, and a friend of mine was like, hey, I was doing like very amateur professional BDSM, this guy was paying me to step on him, and then my friend was like, hey, you know that there's a way to like screen, and like there's dungeons and you can like have a mentor. And I was like, what? I've never heard of any of this. And then my friend connected me to a local dom, who's another like leather dyking community, and so I started mentorship in 2019, and then trained to become a pro dom, and has since been working professionally. And yeah, that's kind of been my journey through it.
That's amazing. I feel like the being able to develop those intergenerational relation, even if like the age isn't quite different, but like of how long you've been in the industry, and being able to learn from others is something that's so special about leather community. And I came into leather and I kind of always knew that I was kinky, but it wasn't, I didn't understand that there was like this community of people doing like specific activities centered around this. I was kind of always like, oh, this sounds terrible for whoever I was seeing. Like, I want to do that. Like,
yeah.
Like, oh, like never letting you orgasm? Perfect. This sounds ideal to me. And like have no, like I wouldn't even know what search terms to find if I was like looking for the kind of porn that I was interested in. It was just like the random connection where the woman was like in more control. And the place that I trained definitely like had some problems with power. But I definitely learned a lot in that space. And despite like some of its flaws, I'm really grateful for like the opportunity to learn from people who had so much expertise and such breadth of experience. And the space I trained like had a different dom come in every month and would do workshops. So I was really able to learn a lot about different people's style of domination and different skill sets. But it wasn't until after I moved to the city that I really kind of found out more about leather dykes, which was much more much better suited to me, and like the style of like skill sharing, and how resources and community, and like how we like teach each other how to vet, and like how we like make sure that like younger folks are safe and like have the resources that they need. It felt very different from a more, I don't know, it wasn't totally a straight space, but it had like kind of like the patriarchal head in charge, and because of that there were a lot of issues with the space.
Yeah, my dom mentor also trained old guard style. Yeah. So my dom mentor I met in Baltimore, but they lived on the West Coast in the Bay, where they worked for, I think they were there for like 8 years, and so they were trained old guard. So then when they trained me, they were like, I'm not going to put you through all of that, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah, it's definitely a different training style to be like, I was like trained submissive from the bottom, which I also like have had more switchier sides. So like it was fine for me personally. It wasn't like trying to like break me to get me to do those things. Right. And so it was like fun for me to like earn leathers and leather boots and like and kind of have that more traditional old guard training, but I've definitely trained people, and I'm like, this was my experience, and like, let's figure out like what works for both of us based on not just like having to stick to a script, you know, and like moving from there. So one thing I know about your domination style, which I'm not even sure if you said in the things you're into, but it's something that like I think of when I think of you, is like hard daddy dom vibes, and I'm so curious how that kind of evolved. I feel like I when I started, I had more of a daddy persona, and like that kind of like evolved into mommy. Gender is so flexible and always in flux. And I'm so curious about like how you found this like daddy dom seed within yourself and what that's been like to explore.
Absolutely. I love being a daddy. It feels very at home for me as a energy to occupy, but getting here was kind of interesting. So my personal life play, I feel, has always impacted my work, and my work has always impacted my personal. And so in my personal life, again, like I'm very into role play and world building, and that's a big staple for me. And so when I was with personal partners, I remember being like, well, okay, the first time anyone ever called me daddy in bed, it I think really struck something inside of me. And for me, like the first time I ever had strap-on sex too, I felt really, I teach connection to strap-on classes, and I've told this in interviews before, but the first time I ever had strap-on sex with somebody, I came wearing the strap-on. And so those two things have always felt very linked for me personally, and so that always felt really right. There were times where my partners would be like, okay, I want you to be mommy, because I'm really into age play, dark age play, and so somebody was like, I want you to be a mommy, and then I remember there were many times I tried to make mommy work. I really did. I was trying to do it for my girlfriends. I was like, okay. And it just never, it gave me like this weird, like kind of like uh-oh feeling. It just didn't feel good. Like also like, should I say this? I have an amazing dad. I have an amazing father. And I love being a really, like, I feel like I have such a great dad that when I am being a daddy to others, I am like all of the best things. But like my frame of reference for mommy, like I just didn't grow up with a mom, so I'm like, what do moms do? I don't know. Like, go do your homework, like what? Like I don't have the material to do mommy, so it never really worked. But were you gonna say something?
No, I like also like the idea with like the like perverted shit that you do. It sounds like you're like, I don't know, I feel like there's so many like misconceptions about like how these things become interesting to us, and I feel like there's like like you have daddy issues, so that's what you're drawn to, and here you're like, my dad's fucking amazing, so I'm gonna give you daddy issues. Like what I was hearing was the subtext.
Yeah.
It skips a generation.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I think something I've been thinking a lot too is just like how our experiences give us like material to pull from and like world build with, and like I feel like for some people that absence is more present than the presence of like a caretaker, and for some people like what you're talking about, you're like, oh, like I don't have the material to work with in this. Yeah. I think it's really interesting how people come to it, especially with I don't know, I'm interested in your thoughts about this. I feel like you're calling it like dark age play, and like femdom daddy dom dynamics, mommy dynamics are taboo. I feel like mommy might be a little bit more taboo than daddy, but I feel like when you're doing like dark age play and like incest role play and like ABDL stuff, it becomes more taboo and people have more thoughts about it. And I'm curious a little bit about like why you think that is. There's so many fucked up things that we do in kink that are talking about different like power authorities that we have relationship with, whether it be through personal experience, through what we see in the media, and still age play seems like something that feels like specifically taboo. And I'm curious like some of your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's interesting like how BDSM doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It's really a microcosm of our world. And so when I think about misogyny or mommy versus daddy or the differences, like I feel like I almost feel like girlfriends calling their boyfriends daddy is like one of the most kind of almost like vanilla entryway kinks that a lot of people are doing daddy or like age play without even calling it that. So I think there's a bit of destigmatizing that goes around daddy, calling somebody daddy, because it's just kind of in our, like in movies and stuff, you see it, like people calling their girlfriends daddy. It's just kind of accepted. But there's a line where there's like, okay, it's okay to call your girlfriend daddy, but then as soon as I'm like, I am your father, like, there's definitely a line where it's like, I am creeping into your bed at night and like diddling you or whatever. Like, there's a line between people just saying it and then the actual hardcore, like, dark age play, consenting adults doing heavy BDSM. So I feel like that's where taboo-ness gets. Mommy play is definitely more taboo than daddy play, and I think that it's because mothers in society in America are so put onto this pedestal. They're supposed to be seen as the ultimate protectors, and to transverse that trust, that motherly trust, I feel like it's more taboo than, because when dads, like when I'm being a fucking pervert and like, sexually touching my kids at night, it's like, okay, well, like men are men or whatever, and I'm just like a douchebag dad, like, and that's like, for me, I really enjoy that part of it for me, because I almost feel like as a daddy dom, I have a lot more permission to be perverted, fucked up, dark, and it's not as, I don't get as much backlash as I think mommies do. And a reason mommy play is actually on my hard limits list now, because I did a mommy scene with this person and it was so triggering for them, and I was trying to do mommy play kind of lighthearted. Like, I was like, oh, we're just fucking around, like, yeah, I'll be your mommy. And I personally wasn't taking it that seriously, because I'm just a pervert, I do role play all the time, right. And I didn't realize that this person had a lot of mommy stuff. I didn't know that before going into it, but I learned the hard way, like, moms, even fictional ass role play ass moms, are held to this ridiculously high standard that I just don't want to deal with as a professional dom. I'm like, look, I'm just trying to fuck you up. Like, this is role play, this is fantasy, like, this isn't real. But I think for dads, it's easier for people to have that cognitive dissonance between like me being your daddy versus me triggering your father issues. But for mommies, it feels, and I want to hear what your thoughts are.
I'm so excited to chat with you about this. I feel like I've talked with a lot of mommy doms about this, about like the unreal expectations that are placed on mother in American society, and like how that kind of turns up. And I have to say, like, you're just smarter than me, like, because it is hard. And like I something that you said is, I feel like, right, like, you don't always have to disclose your trauma history with the people that you're playing with, but I think if you're not, and you're keeping that to yourself, you kind of have to take some responsibility for the things that come up when you're doing dark and fucked up shit that might be replaying or playing with some of the trauma that you've experienced. Like, I don't have an assumption that everyone who comes to me for mommy play has an experience of sexual assault from like a maternal figure. Is not an assumption that I come into playing. And it like, if that is the case, it can be useful to to share and talk about if you feel comfortable, or to like talk about with a therapist or something like that as well. But shit comes up, and like I think about this a lot in regards to attachment, and like how we are kind of conditioned to be attached to maternal and paternal figures in our life. And I feel like I try and like play with it in my style of mommy dom, and like calling it out and pointing it out and talking about it, but it does come up a lot. A lot of people who see me for, I don't know what it is about my marketing, but if your mom did not pay enough attention to you as a child, it seems like we'll be a really good fit. It's like a very specific type of people who have experienced mommy trauma that I seem to get a lot of people who are interested in seeing me. And I think it like comes out through like years of playing together and like working through some of it. But I feel like something that I've learned, and like I think I've been doming for like somewhere between 12 and 15 years. I can't do math, so somewhere around that. But I think I'm more aware of how I can be like with the maternal archetype, be kind of like swooped into someone's trauma and like the ending that they think has to happen with a maternal figure, of whether it be like not being seen, not being listened to. And like I've had like an experience of like anything. First of all, like anything can be a trigger, and like you often like don't know what it is until it happens. I once removed my hand from someone's shoulder and like gave attention to another sub, and like it was deeply triggering because we were doing like dark age play in this way. And I'm like, that's not something we ever could have like negotiated around. And I think it could happen with a daddy dom too, but it felt like very specifically mommy, because like, right, we're not expecting that perfect attunement. We're not socialized to expect that perfect attunement from daddy. And I think I'm now able to have deeper conversations about like what comes up with attachment when doing mommy play, that I don't get myself into pickles as often. But I do feel like, especially like, you know, it's like I'm a sex worker, like I'm providing a service, I'm like holding the space for you to explore something, and like I am not a trained mental health professional. My background is in psychology, so like I do have some language to be able to talk with folks, but like I'm not trying to tell anyone that what I'm doing is therapy, whether or not they find it therapeutic.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting like how different branding or different personas attract different kind of clients and sessions and DS dynamics, because I'm not really doing childhood healing work with any of my clients. Like when I like, and I'm just gonna take a second to talk about my clients, because shout out to y'all. I love my clients. The majority of my clients are divorced dads, and we just get along so well. Me and the dads, we're peds in a pod. And when like literally during my sessions, like, I mean, it's just super fun. Like when most of my sessions, if they're calling me daddy, it's very sexual. Like I'm digging them down, I'm doing slut training, like I'm putting them in bondage and like forcing them to, you know, give me their holes. And like I do a lot of slut training, and they're calling me daddy, and it's just really like, it's interesting because like family stuff doesn't come up that often, very often at all. I think it comes up more often with queer clients. It comes up more often with maybe like younger clients, but it doesn't come up that often. But I found that people who are into mommy stuff, it comes up it almost like always comes up, which I'm like, that's emotional. Like, you're not paying me for therapy, or, you know, I'm kind of I don't know.
It's definitely definitely different. I also like love my clients, but I also really enjoy some of the like processing stuff, and like I really like playing with trauma. in like a contained space. And like I'm really interested in what people do with their trauma and how we can kind of like I never really think of it as like a session is someone like replaying their trauma, because they're coming to it with agency and they are trying to like I am not the person that they've had that experience with, so even if we are playing with their trauma, we're coming to a different outcome. And I try and always like, you know, like talk with the folks that I'm playing with, but it comes up just like so much in mommy stuff. I was reading someone a kid's book as part of a scene, and they told me that they hadn't been ever read to by their mother. And yeah, and I'm just like,
oh, wow.
Well, it's like so intense, but it's also so beautiful to be able to like work with someone to repattern and like give them an experience that they didn't have, or like change an experience that they did have. And I will say, like, sometimes it is just like hot mommy fetish, MILF fetish stuff, but a lot of the people who come to me are like I'm working through some of this, because I also have a theory which is like daddy play, I think, is more accessible for a lot of people, like you're talking about. I feel like especially in the last 5 years with like all the memes of like teenage girls calling their partner dad, they're like also like teenage boyfriend daddy in this way, without thinking about it as being like in relation necessarily to like anything related to BDSM or like leather history or anything like that. And I feel like I often give people a mommy fetish is what I found also. Like I feel like I have friends who are mommy doms who get like babies coming to them who are like fully formed babies, and I feel like I get people who are like, oh, mistress, oh, I've seen you refer to yourself a lot as mommy. Would it be okay if I called you mommy? To being like, oh, like, can we work through some of this stuff? So I wonder if that's part of it for me. Me too.
Yeah, you're corrupting them. Yeah, and I know that your play is very psychologically driven too, which I feel like that makes a lot of sense, that people are you are psychologically challenging your clients in a way that is psychologically, emotionally demanding. And I think that I don't know, it's really powerful and profound to see. It's not the style that I play with, but I love seeing how you do it.
Yeah, it's definitely very rewarding, and I think it like I have a fairly high rate that I think allows me to do more like emotionally involved work with people and like not have to see as many people, which I found to be the most rewarding for me, to be able to like really dive in with someone in that like intense psychological way. But also like I was talking about this too, like with the pandemic, I've just been seeing less people, and like I do just like miss like just do perversion for perversion, and like, you know, like in and out in all of the ways of like seeing more people and getting to explore like on like, I don't want to say like on the less like I'm a very like in my body person, and like love to like bring other people into their bodies as well, which I get to do in my play. But the you know, like seeing a new client and like just getting to like really connect and being like, oh, like that was so fun, and like no one else that I see is like into that specific thing, so I get to do this new thing. It's so fun.
Yes, it's really nice.
I'm curious. So I know, just like we talked a little bit about the difference between mommy and daddy dynamics, and I know that we have a very sweet, very special shared little one who sees both of us, and I thought it would be fun to chat a little bit about this person and in relationship to like how we kind of see them like relating to us a little bit differently. And I'm curious if you want to just start chatting a little bit about them.
Well, I adore little ones so much, and it's been such a joy to be able to really share them together, and to be able to like how I feel like they're constantly communicating and telling me, oh, mommy and I did this, and it's so fun world building a world with you in it as well, where little one's just communicating both, and how like the play and DS between you two influences my DS with little one. And I mean, it's just so special. I really love it so much, and it's really fun for me to be able to, because so often as workers we have our clients and then we only see them ourselves, and then we can't like, you know, share in that joy, or like we're both corrupting little one in different ways, and like and it's just that play is super fun and very fruitful and interesting for me as a top, being able to find creative ways to channel you into the room with us, or to do mommy and daddy play virtually. And I mean, all three of us are in different states, and it's so fun.
I love that. This is actually an episode about co-parenting. What we're talking about today.
This is a parent conference.
Oh my god. I just actually had I'm trying to arrange a mommy conference. MommyCon is one of my goals. But we should have a parental figure con too. It's been so fun too, and also just like watching them get to explore some of like the differences between like the like love and care of a mommy and the love and care of a daddy, and like getting to talk about it in this fun way. And I think I just like really appreciate how they communicate about it, and like how excited they are. Like it's so fun for me when they're like, this is what I did with daddy, and like daddy told me that like you were gonna be so proud of me, and I'm just like, oh, it's just like, it's so sweet and so special to get to share this parenting journey with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's so fun, and like I just love being like, I have so much respect for you, I have so much respect for little one, and it feels like such a gift to be on their journey and to be able to provide a like paternal side to it. It's like interesting because like the ways in which little one talks about you, I mean, they just worship you, and like they feel so much warmth and admiration, and like it comes off so intensely, and like it just moves me to see their devotion to you. And then because y'all have been playing for longer
like 3 years,
than me.
almost 3 years now, yeah.
Right, and that's an amazing accomplishment. And little one and I have been playing for less than that, I think over a year now, and to be able to have a totally different dynamic with them, it's amazing. It's really great. And like, what better mommy to have in this? I mean, I feel so lucky. I'm like, hell yeah. I'm like, little one has excellent taste.
That's clearly what I tell them all the time. I'm like, you have phenomenal taste in parental figures.
Yeah.
Like, truly elite.
Yeah.
And it is so fun, because I feel like I've been able to be like kind of maternal figure coaching. A lot of the stuff I've done with little one has been online. I really love doing submissive training online. Is something I've done a lot more of in the pandemic, which I think has just been a really fun way. And like I just did an interview with little one the other day, so maybe that will come out before this if people want to check out the interview with Mars. And I don't know, like getting to explore at a like lower barrier, because I think I actually haven't seen them in person. We've played virtually, and I know that you've gotten to actually feel their flesh, which makes me a little jealous, but my time will come. I had a session with them, and I sadly had COVID then, and so I was telling you earlier, like they came to drop off goodies at my door, and I just like stuck my slipper, like you can see my foot in the mirror, like 6 feet out the door for them to kiss, and they were like, oh, and it was very sweet. But our time will come, but being able to like move really slowly, you know, like I think it was like a year and a half after seeing me virtually that they hired their first pro dom for an in-person session, and like getting to like kind of coach them through that experience to like them meeting you and like really connecting with you and just like being so fucking stoked and like really just like I feel like accepting some of like the darker fantasies. I don't know if you're like implanting it too. Like,
yeah, for
with
sure.
some of the dark age play, but like I just think it's so cool getting to like watch someone's journey. And you're right, like it is so often that we're watching the journey kind of alone in this like contained space, and I think getting to like watch them like move into community spaces and getting to talk with you about it is so exciting.
Absolutely. Yeah, because of course, we're respecting our clients' privacy, so it's kind of like this industry can be very isolating in that way, and being able to share them has just been such a gift.
Yeah, I actually, now that I think of it, I don't think I've like had a like co-parenting relationship in my time pro doming. It's very fun, and like they're just, I feel like I also like they're just so respectful. I feel like there's ways that people kind of can triangulate when they're seeing like multiple pro doms and especially like parental figures. But like they're so communicative and like so sweet that it's really just such a pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, they'll enjoy jerking off to this interview, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would love to hear you talk a little bit more about like dark age play and like what that looks like to you.
Absolutely. I love dark age play. I love it. I think people are nervous or afraid to ask for it, and I think that that's a good thing. I think that people should build trust and session. You know, I don't just jump into dark age play from the very, very beginning unless that person has a lot of experience, is very self-aware. Like I vet more heavily when I'm doing more extreme psychological scenes. And I do a lot of really dark age play in my personal life. So I have a breadth of experience doing it in my personal life. And then in my professional life, I do less of it. But the more I've been talking about it publicly online, the more it's been coming into my life, which has been really cool. And I guess, what is the question about dark age play?
I guess like how do you define it, like how would you define like age play versus dark age play, and then like what does dark age play look like for you, if you want to like talk me through like a fantasy or like a memory or something like that of like what feels particularly resonant when we're talking about it.
Absolutely. Great question. So a lot of people call me daddy, and it's just kind of like, yeah, I'm digging them down. They're calling me daddy. I'm forcing somebody to call me daddy. I am, and it's very of like, that's just how my dominance can live. That versus dark age play, I mean, it's much more negotiated, and when I do dark age play, it is world building. I'm like, okay, I am your father. I am this, and I'll describe myself. I'm like, look, like, I'm disgusting. Like, I'm like in a wife beater. I'm like an alcoholic. I'm like, you know, all these different like world building things. I'm like, my dick looks like this. It's disgusting.
You're like, this hot person that you see, not real.
Yeah, no. No. Underneath this femme exterior, I am dirtbag dad. So I'm like painting a picture for them, right? And then at the same time, I'm like, okay, now, who are you? Like, what are you? Are you the kid next door? Are you mowing my lawn? Are you going to be? Did I swoop you off the street? Like, did I lure you into my dungeon? Or like, I did this dark age play scene where I was in a hotel and this little girl like knocked on my door and she was like, hi, I can't find my parents, I'm lost. And then I was like, come on in, I can help you find your parents. And we did a scene where I had her sit down on the chair, and I was like, oh, let me look at your cell phone, and I'll try to find them. And then I take her phone and put it on the counter. She has her little stuffed animal with her, and I was like, you know, I have this really pretty bracelet that you might like, and I put handcuffs on her. And then I went to go lock the door, and so suddenly, you know, we were doing this dark age play scene where usually if I'm doing a dark age play scene, I'll be like, okay, this is the premise of the scene. I'll give them like acting cues where I'm like, I'll give them an emotion. Like, I want you to be confused and then scared. And so we're like, okay, so this submissive that I was playing with was then like, do you know where my parents are? Like, can you help me find them? And I'm just like distracting them, you know. I'm like, let's play this game. I'm like, come sit on my lap. And then, you know, and so it just kind of devolves. But when I do dark age play scenes, I mean, like I was saying earlier, I'm really into role play, so they can be quite theatrical, but very world building, very, you know, I'm very hyperverbal during all of my scenes actually. But yeah, it's a lot more fun. It's a lot more explicit.
I love that too. Like, I feel like so much when we think about role play, I don't know. I feel like there's this. I don't know how you feel about role play, but I feel like I was hesitant about it at first because I was like, I don't like being given a script. I like to like co-create, but I love the way that you're talking about it too, where you're like this is who I am. Like, who are you? And like, what are you bringing into this role play? And like, this is what I'm bringing, and like, this is what you're gonna. You know, I think that it sounds like so collaborative and such a fun world. I love how you talk about world building. I feel like I don't hear that a lot talked about in role play, and I love that idea of building something together is so fun, and also such a hot scenario.
Yeah.
Very fun. Look at this bracelet. And I think like the dark stuff is I don't know, it's so fun. I have like a dark mommy persona that I really like, which is the over medicated mother who wants you to stay home from school because you're so sick, don't you know how sick you are?
Yes.
Don't you want to stay in bed with mommy all day and watch TV? And like, what if mommy touches you a little bit because daddy's gone and mommy just needs a little bit of attention? And oh, do you want one of mommy's pills too? Mommy doesn't want to do anything without you. And like, I don't know, like, I just feel like the more like, the darker, the more fun. And like, there's something like so special about getting to explore something so dark, because the vulnerability it takes, I think, on both ends of being like, you know, like you being like, oh, like this is something that I'm interested in, and like, will you play with me in this capacity? I feel like is a really vulnerable thing.
Definitely. I love it. I mean, it's the most fun for me. It like really tickles my brain, and it's so easy for me too. It's so easy. Like, all of my perversions, all of my fantasies are about really like age play. For me is, you know, we talk about the difference between kinks and fetishes. Like, kinks, you like a kink, but a fetish you kind of need.
Yeah.
I have an age play fetish. So even if and maybe this is, I don't want people to take this the wrong way, but for me, I find it erotic to be a young femdom and to dominate older men and to make them younger than me.
Yeah.
Like, I am like, you're my little bitch now. Like, you're like my property. Or like forcing them to be younger. Like, oh, I don't care if you're 55 years old. Like, in this room, like, you are 13 years old, and and so like, I find a lot of erotic pleasure in using, like, you know, I'm in my 20s, and a lot of my clients are older than me, and to force them to be younger is just really hot for me. And even if it's not like something we're explicitly talking about, it's in the room, and I've always found that hot. I mean, I've always played with older people. Right. I've always found it hot to be I've always conceptualized myself as much older in like fetish space, and
yeah, and
yeah, I don't
in
know.
the world you're building.
Yeah,
I think too,
absolutely.
there's something so interesting that you were saying there too. Is I'm writing a blog post right now about financial domination, and
Mm,
something I'm like figuring out how to talk about is that like, right, it is this fetish where it's like I'm talking about you surrendering your power to me, but in I unless you're actually surrendering all of your resources to me in like a legal contract, and then I have all of the money and decide like when you get to eat, where you get to, like there's not a situation where the sex worker has more power than the client. And like some of the world building that we do in sessions is, while we're playing with power, is subverting some of those power dynamics. But a lot of like, like when you leave the room, in like most situations that client will still have more power
mm-hmm.
than the sex worker. And so I think I was hearing a little bit of that in like what you were talking about too, and I love the idea of this like intentionality of it. And I think even like outside of role play, it's something that like all doms do some of this world building to like create this like somatic experience of taking away someone's power, so that like the suspension of disbelief, that we come into this space and this world that we're building together, actually feels like this, like in your body, that you are surrendering power. And I think is really interesting hearing you talk about that with age as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to hear you talk about how you see mommy play and financial domination playing together, because I feel like I can predict a lot of overlap.
Yeah, well, I think everyone should be working for mommy. Mommy's
Yeah.
pleasure is all that matters. Mommy gets whatever mommy wants. And being like a good little, there's like a lot of like good little worker bee for mommy. Like, don't you want to please mommy? You're too young for this. Mommy will take care of it. Yeah, and it's very much like that everything you do is for mommy's pleasure, and really just heightening that. And I feel like my interest in financial domination, I feel like I have like a trio, which is like I'm very interested in financial domination, I'm very interested in mommy play, and I'm very interested in just like straight DS and DS training. And I feel like financial
Mm.
domination and DS relationships feel more directly connected to me, because I don't feel like I don't like the pretense that someone is surrendering power to me. I like that they are actually surrendering power to me. And I don't think that you can actually surrender power to someone who you have significantly more resources than by changing that. And I
Mm.
think the mommy thing, I'm kind of talking through this, thinking about this as we talk through it, but I think the mommy thing then kind of like is overarching over a lot of those two. So it's like I am mommy, and these are my like two deeply held beliefs. And as we explore power dynamics, then everything goes up the funnel to mommy, everything for mommy's pleasure, everything to make life easier for mommy, and just like the little one who is just like always working to get that attention and that pleasure, and knowing what their priorities are.
I love that. Yeah, it's super interesting too. Like something I was just thinking of is like in a lot of cultures, children are expected to take, you know, take care of their parents when their parents get older. Like you're saving for your parents' retirement. And I think something that's really hot that just came to my mind is that like moms always live longer. So you're like, mommy's retirement, you gotta save up. Mommy's gonna live a long life. You
Yeah,
gotta.
I can be like 20% more than daddy.
Yeah,
I looked at my
exactly.
watch like that was a calculator for some reason.
You're like, this clock.
Yeah, it's
Saving
ticking. I'm
now.
gonna be here a long time. My family does live very long. Like all of my great grandparents were over 100. So
Wow.
yeah, we live too
Hmm.
long.
Oh my god.
um, yeah, that's an interesting question. I think for me, it really is about like at its crux, like it's about power for me and my style of domination, and that's always been what it was from like back when I was like younger and like had no language for BDSM, and was like tease and denying partners and like doing orgasm control before like having any language for this. One of my favorite activities when I was younger too. What this is this is a terrible thing, but I was younger, but I loved getting people who had partners to tell me that to like beg me to hook up with them, and then I'd be like, that would be so terrible. Like, you're gonna cheat on your partner, and I would just like humiliate them. And like that, and then I would go home and jerk off, and I'm like, that was like one of my early roots was like getting someone to do something bad, and then like humiliating them about it. And no, it was like for me, it was like I have the power to get them to make this decision that like is taboo. Or
yeah, that's amazing.
It was very fun for me. I'm curious about. We talked a little bit about the beginning, like going to like queer punk house BDSM parties, and I'm curious how you relate to like your queerness to to daddy play, and like I feel like there's so much there in like being like a femdom daddy or a lesbian dominatrix, and like how this kind of subverts traditional like what we see about traditional femdom, and I'm curious how that plays out in your practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like it's interesting being like, I'm very out about being queer and just being a lesbian femdom. Like a lot of my clients who come to me, I mean, I do a lot of slut training sessions, and that's because I love taking my subs and corrupting them. So I have a heavy corruption fetish, and being able, and I do a lot of sissy play, a lot of really fun gender play. So my dom mentor's domination style has had a significant influence in my domination style, and she was really into gender fuckery in a way that I just really love and admire. And their ability to, Mistress Lena Lavender was my mentor, for anyone listening who might remember. Lena's retired last year, so but my mentor just, yeah, they love doing sissy play, and I also now love doing that. And so I don't know, I think it's just really hot. Like I turn a lot of my submissives into my little cock sleeves or my little sissy sluts, my little cock sucking sluts, and it's fun as being so queer and being so lesbian that it just draws people to me who want me to slut them out. They want to be a lesbian. I mean, I've done me and Empress Wu, who is phenomenal. I cannot talk more highly of anyone in this field. I mean, I just have so much love for them in my heart. But Empress Wu and I do a lot of doubles, and we do a lot of lesbian cuckolding sessions. And so there's a lot there in either turning, and I've done this with Mr. Sybil too, like in doubles, turning our clients into lesbians and then having sex with them, like corrupting them and being like, this is lesbian sex, like lesbian sex is better, and like we're gonna turn you into a woman and like, you know, teach you all of the ways. And then, or like humiliation, like cuckolding them and being like, you'll never be able to pleasure a woman or pleasure a dom in the ways that we can pleasure each other. And it's really hot, so I have a lot of fun doing it.
I love that. I get a lot of gender play in mommy sessions, which is very fun. Like mommy will show you how to be a woman and like show you how to like receive pleasure. Like mommy will turn you into a woman in like all of the ways. Like taking virginities and like full transformation is really, really fun. And I feel like a really fun lesbian domination style of being able to like, also it's just like, what a gift, whether or not you're into being feminized, like what a gift for them to like transform you. And like it feels like this like really beautiful like and perverse like initiation into this thing that you get to explore. And you know, you can go as far down the rabbit hole as you like.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I'm curious, as we start to like wrap up the conversation, if there's anything else that you wanted to make sure we chatted about?
I feel super happy with all of the things that we have discussed.
Same.
This has just been so lovely.
I know I'm really happy about this, and getting to, talk about our special little one and some of the differences of mommy and daddy dynamics and the joys of lesbian domination truly is just so special. Well, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
Yes, so my website is mistrixsunmi.com, and for now, my Instagram is serve.sunmi. My Twitter is servesunmi. One word, just as is. Anyone else is a catfish. My FetLife is servesunmi, and I am on OnlyFans also as serve.sunmi.
I love it. It seems like people should be serving you is the subtext that I got from that.
Yeah.
It would seem silly not to. And I'm online at mistressblunt.com, and all of my socials are at bluntlinks.com. I'll just share that because they just get deleted so often. It's terrible. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thank you.
Yay, that was so fun.